What is evil education, and how is it different from merely indoctrination? Please help me understand this.
Even education, and or let me start from indoctrination. Indoctrination, it means that what I say stands. You are teaching them to do it the way you want it to be done without any question. There is very little of discussion. There is very little of discovery. There is very little of input from the child. So at the end of the day, there is no learning that takes place because it is regurgitation of the information that the teacher would have said. Whereas in even education, there are elements of research, discovery. It should be child-centered. It should seek to ensure that the child discovers the information, discovers what he or she is learning. And it is through discovery that we can find many of our children learning and equipping them with the skills that are needed in this day and age to make sure that they can contribute in our communities. Whereas with indoctrination, it does not give you skill. It does not empower you to go out and serve your communities because there is nothing that you have learned in terms of discovery, research, and there is very little that has provoked your thinking. The thought process has always been guided according to a certain narrative that it seeks to serve. It is like what we do in church. There is very little that you will be given to think outside the parameters of what the preacher thinks is right. So you are indoctrinated to a particular doctrine, whereas education should not be used as a tool for indoctrination. It should be used as a tool of empowering the learner to become self-sustaining, to become an individual who is able to serve communities, an individual who is capable of creating. I had an opportunity to be out there in the United Kingdom, and while there, I could see that what we were teaching this side and the manner in which we were teaching was quite different. In the United Kingdom, you would see people being given opportunity to discover, being given opportunities to research, going at a particular pace, not necessarily when we teach a multiplication. By the end of 2 weeks, all children should understand multiplication. And this is not what they do in the United Kingdom. They teach multiplication, but each child's learning ability and pace is taken cognizance of. And that gives each teacher an opportunity to design a curriculum that serves to address the concerns and challenges of that particular. Whereas in Africa, we are given, let's say in South Africa, you are given an ATP, a syllabus that comes from the Ministry of Education. And it says first week, you are done with this. Second week, you are done with this. Third week, you are done with this. Surely, how is it possible that children of different learning abilities can catch or can understand the concept at the same rate? That in itself compromises the issue of even education, which seeks to afford children opportunities according to their abilities and the pace at which they understand. Some of the children that end up failing in our schools are not supposed to be failing at all, but it is because they have been hurriedly taken through the course that they are supposed to be doing in order to meet a particular deadline. That again compromises the issue of even education, which seeks to empower. Even education should empower our children with skills of research, innovation, creativity, discovery, and so on, as compared to indoctrination, which is devoid of all these other areas that education should be addressing.
That is absolutely important. All right, now, you see, I want to take your word for it that education should be about empowering people, and that is what it really should be. In fact, this is the way it is in many other clients. It's only in Africa that we just indoctrinate people. We load their head with ideas that they don't need, and when they finish school, they don't find a place in the society. Yes, they find a place to become immigrant in Europe, because that is how the idea has been. So that Africa has been designed as a satellite. It's not an independent state. It was not designed to be independent. It was designed to be a satellite. And a satellite is something very simple to understand. No? You have a university, then you have a satellite university campus. That satellite is not the real university. It's just responding to the main university. So that Africa economy was designed to respond to the main economy, meaning Africa is not the real economy. When we train people, we don't train them to resolve the problem of Africa, because that is not real. It's not a real problem. They are trained to become doctors or technicians in the United States or in Europe. Again, this can be fine from the point of view of the West, because they need people to service their economy. But as a people, as Africa, this is not in our interest. We need people to understand how to go into the forest in Africa and cultivate to feed the population in Africa. And if we have excess of this, we can sell to the outside. These people need to understand the culture, the relationship between them and the land. They need to understand how to treat the disease. They need to understand how to control the erosion, the irrigation, the transportation, the marketing, all according to the point of view of the African people. And this should pass through the educational system in a way that it has always been done. If we go back to history in Africa, again, we realize that if we look at some empires in Africa, they didn't educate people to become alien to themselves. We have big economies in Africa, whether you're looking at the Malian Empire, looking at the Benin Kingdom, there are big empires that have grew up in Africa. The Empire of Mali, for example, was said to be one of the richest in the world. How did they do it if we begin to look at Africa as if we never knew anything? It is not true. And we're looking at something of even 12 centuries ago. 12 centuries ago. So we need to give education to the people, the kind of education that will help them to become independent. Of course, this will mean standing against the odds of other people. But who are you if you cannot even stand for yourself? Who are you if you cannot even stand to take the bullet for your people, for what you believe in? Who are you as a leader? So I want to ask you, Mr. Kennedy, what do you see to be the primary problem facing the educational system in South Africa and, of course, in other parts of Africa? I mean, the problem that we can solve. Which are these problems?
Before I look at the problems, one of the problems that we have had on Africa, like I've said before, our colonizers were very clever. When they came in, they designed an education system where it made us feel second-class citizens by shaping our narrative and perspectives in a particular way. to the extent that when they introduced the technical schools, in most of these technical schools, we were taught building, bricklaying rather. We were taught carpentry. We were taught sewing and all these other manual skills. But we were not exposed to the reading, for instance, of the plan, the drawing of the plan, and many other skills. So technical skills were only meant to equip us so that we can do that which needed manual labor. And it made many of our fathers to hate technical schools. That's why you see that at the advent of independence, in most independent countries, they dealt away with the technical schools because the technical schools were seen as a tool which was used to make sure that we remain employees. But to a certain extent, what we needed to have done is to make sure that we maintain the technical schools, but add those other skills, like in the case of building, other than teaching bricklaying only. Now we needed to include the component of technical drawing, drawing of plans, surveying, and so on. And then we know these were skills that were limited only to those who were going to university, and many of them were Europeans or the colonizers. So the issue of technical schools is an area that we need to look at and address again, with the hope that we are going to be teaching our people skills that are needed in our communities, skills that will serve the interests of our communities. After all, we had so much of these skills before the coming in of the colonialists. Look at the pyramids. Look at how the great Zimbabwe ruins were built. Look at the smelting which was taking place in Africa before the coming of the Africans, or of the colonizers. That speaks to the innate abilities and skills that are within Africans, which we can use in order to turn around the fortunes of our own countries. Because we have shown it in the past, where we had the Egyptians coming up with the pyramids, those in the Munumtapa Empire coming up with the great Zimbabwe ruins, the Kami ruins, and so on. And we look at quite a number of artifacts. Some of them are lying in the museums in Europe, of smelting that was taking place on the African continent. So the issue of giving our children skills through technical skills, the schools, whose curriculum is deliberately designed to fuse the whole chain of skills that are required in a particular trade, rather than restrict them to, say, in terms of building, bricklaying only.